Hello again, nothing fancy here. I am going to attempt to make brown sugar because, as you can see, my brown sugar is empty. And there's your little tidbit. Put marshmallows in it, it always stays soft. So I'm going to attempt to make my own since I have white sugar in the pantry. So from what I've seen and researched, I am using 8 cups of white sugar. I am going to add 8 tablespoons of baking molasses. Now, again, I was going to use King syrup. I decided to pick this up at the store. It was a little bit cheaper, I think, than King syrup. So I'm going to do 8 tablespoons of that and turn on my processor here. And it said online on about a medium, so I'm probably going to do a 1 or 2 and let it process and see if I come up with a good tasting brown sugar. Okay, so there's my 8 tablespoons of molasses in there, and I'm going to turn it on. Okay, quick note, what I'm learning is I need to scrape my sides, and I have a very large food processor, but don't put 8 cups of sugar in there. The sugar needs room to move around. So I'm going to continue to scrape the side and then put it back on to reprocess. As you can see, there's still molasses that's not absorbed. Here is my bowl of extra because that was way too much in my food processor. It doesn't want to move around a lot, and I did read some of that. Some people are saying to use a hand mixer and they make a mess and it gets yucky and all of that. So they said to go with the food processor, which I'm doing, but I am going to do less at a time. Also, the 8 tablespoons of molasses is plenty. They said you could double that if you wanted dark brown sugar. I think it'd be way too wet. Here's my consistency right now. It is definitely a packable. Okay, I think if I would have doubled that, it would have been almost too wet, and you would have had to end up adding maybe a little bit more white sugar. So I think I'm going to have the right ratio for a brown sugar, because here's my jar, and you know, it does look a little bit darker, which I expected because of the dark molasses. But I would say start with 1 tablespoon. Don't go over that yet. Let me keep going, and I'll keep you filled in. Okay, so I just finished. Here's my second batch in my food processor. Ran it on that number 1. I did not need anything higher than my number 1. In here, like I said, I'd split it in half because I thought it was way too much, but it really did break it down, and that molasses is all incorporated. So, brown sugar. Can't say it's light brown sugar, can't say it's dark brown sugar, maybe call it a medium brown sugar. But I want to show you the difference. So this is my store-bought that was in the bottom of my jar. You can kind of see a difference there in the color. Trying to get you a good color here. That is definitely a little bit darker. That's the store-bought, but I also can see granulated sugar in that. I know my camera is not the greatest, but that also has granulated sugar in it. You can definitely see the particles. So maybe they use a little bit bigger sugar, or it doesn't get broke down quite as much as the homemade one. But as far as consistency of packing and wetness, that is just as wet as that. They both stick, just a little bit different in color. As far as that goes, smell, they smell almost the same. This definitely has a fresher smell to it, I guess, with the molasses being the cooking molasses. It just has that little bit fresher, like you could definitely tell it was just opened or just made compared to this that's been in my jar for a little bit. So otherwise, I think it's a success. Again, go by the capacity of your food processor. Something that I thought was going to be super easy. It wasn't too bad. Make sure everything is super dry when you work with it. So make sure all your food processor and everything is dry. Dry bowls, dry spatulas, everything like that. Of course, you're not going to want any moisture. other than the molasses that you add. And the little tip of the day that works really well is put marshmallows in your brown sugar and it'll always stay soft. So there you go. My marshmallows have been in there for a long time. They're still in there. I have 3 of them in this half-gallon jar, and they're still soft. The marshmallows are still soft, and so is the brown sugar, as you can see, and that was the bottom of my jar, and I've done nothing to it, and it's still packable just like the day I got it out of the bag. So, homemade brown sugar. Hope you enjoyed it. Cost-wise, not sure of the breakdown. It's just what I had in the pantry, and again, because I wanted to try it. Again, the molasses, I think I will try with king syrup at some point. I think it'd be a little bit sweeter than this Supreme Baking Molasses. It's just really dark and has that really dark flavor and smell to it compared to maybe the syrup of the king syrup. But there you go. Homemade brown sugar, can use it in a pinch and fill your pantry.